me ask a different question about design. When you think about where the games ended up and where they started, how much did the game change from its original conception, and what was the process of getting there in making those changes? How iterative or prototyping, how much prototyping did you do? What's the design process like? Anyone can comment on this. Raise your hand if you feel like the final game was 75% of what you had originally thought it would be in terms of design.
For us, I know that we nailed what we shot for. We came out with a very serious plan. We take pre-production very seriously, not just because we're professionals, but also because the people we are working for want to know what they're paying for. So we have to make sure we tell them this is what we're going to build for you, and this is when it's going to get done. We had an interesting a little production issue that came up pretty much after we started the project, almost on day 2, where our publisher asked us to shave off some time. But at least they did that at the start of the project. Much better to happen then than to happen at the end. So we did a little fire drill and kind of rejiggered things a little bit, but we ended up exactly where we wanted to be.
Yeah, we can continue answering this. I realize we're segueing into production, which is great.
Sorry.
Yeah, for us it was, we were very ambitious for the project, probably too ambitious, and we're still ambitious for it. We're going to hit 80% of our original goal, but the biggest challenge was probably, we set a lofty goal to hire, but we did really good.
I see. So in your case, it wasn't that the core player design changed, it's that you actually didn't do as much as you had hoped. So it's more of a scale issue.
Mostly it was just, it was a number of hours of gameplay, that type of stuff. None of the feature-wise, gameplay-wise was the issue, but we hired 50 people over like a 7-month period. So it was creating a brand new team with a humongous goal. And but it's it's paying off now. It's great.
Does anyone else want to comment on this, the design process?
I mean, I have a very iterative approach to game design, in which it usually involves a lot of prototyping and playtesting. And doing something that is citywide, like a citywide game, is really hard to test a lot of those elements. So something on that scale, and it's really challenging. And so we did a lot of prototyping of small pieces of it. We did a lot of playtesting where we would just have a hotel room and we would tape up all of the semicodes and just run around playing the game just numerically, just to test the kind of math of the game.
Trying to go to Hoboken or Newark first.
No, we did, and then we would do a test where we would get people. We would actually like hire temps, and we'd have inflatable mattresses, and we would pay these people like $35 an hour to run around the city with inflatable mattresses to test, just like things about timing and stuff like that. But
hotel rooms, inflatable mattresses.
$35 an hour. So,
how can I be a playtester?
You can't. But it was just more, so for us it was really scary to not know on the day of the first play session whether it would work, and it was just miraculous that it worked at all.
Well, I mean, I think that's part of making an event-based game as opposed to a commercial product.
Totally.
Greg?
Yeah, well, just to talk about this a little bit. See, in many cases, in fact, in the conventional industry, mostly what you're doing today is implementing a well-understood game style. Right? And so maybe a little bit tweak in terms of gameplay elements or background or something. But, I mean, Jason is doing a side-scrolling shooter. We know how side-scrolling shooters work. I mean, he's got some different elements in there. But it should be fairly straightforward to design that and implement it, right? Right. I mean, Frank is inventing a new genre here, right?
Frank Lance.
Frank Lance, yeah. So that's a different story there. And in general, if you look at kind of the prototyping that, say, Will Wright does, where they're just playing around with ideas for years at a time before they actually go into production mode. That's a very different kind of design process than what most of us are used to.
Our problem there with the design process was I think we hit almost exactly what we wanted. It was just the devil is in the details. It was, because as you said, our initial concept was it would be a camera-controlled platform game, and everyone knows you drive around that. Go over bridges, explore things, set pieces. But there just wasn't time at the end to do the little details that would have changed it from painful to enjoyable. And it really was, because of the camera control, it really was a very fine line. And so so we got what we wanted, but there was we know exactly what we couldn't have done with another 2 months or another 6 weeks. And it was a big difference. Like some games you're like, oh, if I had more time, I could throw in more textures, I could throw in this other unit. It's a big job. For us, it actually wasn't, they're very concrete things that would make the game vastly better. Yes, sir.
Are all, I know you want to talk, Frank. Are all of you like that? Do all of you see your finished game and wish and think, oh God, there's just that one feature, that one thing, or do you move on from it? I mean, how do you stop? Where do you feel about the sort of end process and the kind of eternal polishing that can go on with the game? Obviously, oftentimes it just ends when the budget or schedule is
Flip side of the
completed.
constraints.
Yeah. Well, being a creative person in general, you're never done. You're like, oh, I want to do more, I want to do more, right?
It's hard, but you have to step away. And when we hit the time when we're getting ready to send it off to Nintendo for approval, there's always that, oh, it'd be much nicer if we did this, and oh, it'd be much nicer if we did this. But again, to echo, it's the constraints, and you have to abide by them, or else you don't have a game.
Did you have something else?
Yeah,
Frank, you wanted to add?
the design thing. Actually, it was, EA and DICE were really smart about that as well, for the design aspect. With our team, when they were designing Battlefield 2, they were creating a whole new engine. Our job was to actually use the older engine and R&D all the gameplay on the older engine first while they were making the engine. So by the time they were done, boom, they put all the gameplay in. Very smart move, very, very hard because we had to iterate twice a week, new gameplay, major new features. But, that saved them a ton of time because most times when we're developing stuff, we're kind of stuck on, creating the tech and trying to make it fun at the same time.
So in that, it's kind of it's a higher tech equivalent of the paper prototyping that Greg mentioned. You're prototyping the gameplay or the hotel room mattress adventures that Frank shared with us. That you're in other words, you have to strategize about how you can prototype the gameplay.